My name is Wayne and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to install the Hotchkis subframe connectors on my 1970 Cuda. So the subframe connectors are something that I've been wanting to do for a long time, and they've been on my list for weeks actually. But I had to practice my welding, and that's what I've been working on. If you haven't been following along and watching my past few videos, that's what I've been doing. So today though, we're going to start on this project and get everything laid out and fitted up, and we're going to weld them on. Now here's a look at the subframe connector. In the back of the car, it gets bolted to the front of the leaf spring bracket, and in the front, you use the supply bracket that gets welded to the cross member, and then the subframe connector gets welded into that smaller bracket. So I've already done an initial mock-up of the subframe connectors and the front bracket, but now we're going to get these all wire wheeled and make sure everything is good where we're going to be welding so it's nice and clean and we have a good weld surface. And before I do any welding on the car, it's always a good practice to disconnect your battery ground cable. I've heard horror stories, people weld on the car, they don't do that, and then all of a sudden the ignition system doesn't work. So I always take the extra cautious step to do so. It only takes a minute. I'd rather be safe than sorry. Alright, so I have everything prepped where I'm going to weld. I had to put a little notch in the metal for the bracket. Let me show you how that's going to go. Just as such. So, and I also cleaned off a spot right here where we're going to put our ground clamp. Got to have a good ground before we start welding here. So that should work. And yeah, we're going to tack that in place. Alright, so I just fired up the welder, got my little spotlight on, got my gloves, and the welder setting. If you've been watching any of my videos, I have a Miller-Matic 130. It's a little 110 welder. So the voltage or amperage is up a level 4, high as it can go. The wire speed's at 50. And all my practice welds, that was working good on this thicker material, like this front support bracket's going to be. So I'll put the camera down, we'll get a few tacks on, and go from there. Like to make sure my wire is trimmed back. Alright, so maybe on top. Solid. Over here. Across. Alright, now she's tacked. Alright. One thing I learned from all my practice welds, I did a lot better, going vertical down rather than trying to go push up. I'm going to try to go down as much as I can, especially around these bolt holes. Pretty good. There's this side. Try to fill in these holes a little bit. It's hard to get a good gun angle in there, for sure. think so. Yeah, all right. Not the best look right there. Bit of gap on this one. Alright, so I have everything in place. I bolted it in back so it's all nice and tight. In the front, it's all sitting nice and flush, and I tapped it up with a little hammer, dead blow. So now we're ready to weld it. Let's get the ground going again. So I'm going to start out probably going down. Alright, here we go. Good. Good, I like it. Oh, geez, that looks like hell. cool off and we'll come back to it. Come back. Looks like what we got to try to do is screw up this weld, which hitting the seam actually. I don't think that's gonna work. Alright, let's just try to fill in these little curves and corners. Gap there. It says weld between there and there, but that's an 1/8 inch. That is not gonna weld. That's for sure. Alright. Let's see what else. Can't do much of this. Weld around the front of that little tab, but I don't think it's going anywhere. Yup. Good. I think it's pretty darn good. Alright, we're going to call it done. We're going to clean it up. And then we can put some paint on it after it cools off, obviously. Woo! Alright, so I just wire wheeled the surfaces. It's all cooled down now. Getting ready for some primer and paint, and you can see some of the welds. Not the greatest, but not the worst. That one looks nice. Not bad. Yeah. So anyway, I'm happy with it. It took a lot of time for me to get there, just practicing welding. And the other side is about the same. It's very similar. So again, now we're gonna prime this area and paint it, and man, we're gonna be good. These are the paints I'm gonna be using. We have a gray direct metal primer and the Eastwood Extreme Chassis Black. I've had good results with both of these. I really like them. So we'll spray on a light coat of primer, then a few coats of paint. So it's the next day, the paint's fully dried, and I just took off the extra tape that I had masking off some of the lines. So let's crawl underneath there, take a look, and we'll see. All right. So I think it looks pretty good. I'm real happy with it. Yeah, the chassis black from Eastwood blended in nice with the subframe connectors, and tell you what, pretty confident it's not going to go anywhere. The other side as well looks good. Pretty happy. My first thoughts of these bars is, I wish they would have came out straight from this area rather than right at an angle. You can see there, if they would just came out straight like an inch and then did the downward angle, you would have had a lot more clearance for nuts and bolts. In the instructions, they even talk about maybe putting studs on this end or switching them out so the nuts are on the back side. But with the offset shackles, I still had that issue. So, and then I wish they would have done a bigger bend right here to clearance the floor pans, because I had to slightly clearance them, the footwell area, and I wish they would have just stepped down like another 1/4 inch. It would have been great. So that's my thoughts there. Overall, I'm happy with the subframe connectors. They went on fairly straightforward, fairly smoothly, other than the clearance they had to do to the footwells like I mentioned, and I think that could be avoided if they just make some tweaks to it, but they probably won't once things are into production like that. pretty much forget it. But now we can at least cross those off the list, and we're getting closer. Now that the frame connectors are all wrapped up, in the next video we're going to do the rear sway bar by Hotchkis. Well, that is going to be it for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and hit the like button. I really appreciate it. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.